first beautiful aspect of this panel is the fact that we have a very well-balanced mix of experts, consultants, founders, academia, and spawning around different industries and around different areas of business. Let me start with a brief introduction of our panelists. I'm starting from right to left with Ms. Ellie Huerta. She's the founder and CEO of AIM Colors. She's a founder driven by creativity, cultural intelligence, and emotional resonance. Through AIM Colors, she builds brands and experiences shaped by body identity, authenticity, and human meaning. Moving forward, Mr. Brian Lindquist, professional consultant, at WellsCare. And Brian brings deep experience helping organizations navigate complexity through structured thinking and practical frameworks. Going forward, we have Paul Barrett. He's a chairman and CEO of Barrett Enterprises. Paul, thank you for coming. We saw you these days on stage several times, and it was quite a very interesting experience, I would say. Paul is a seasoned CEO whose leadership spans multiple industries. I will not add further. You saw him already, but he will talk about some things today as well. Moving on, we have finally someone from the academia. This is Haroon. And Haroon bridges academia, research, and innovation. He's a professor at University of Southern Denmark, University of Oxford, and founder of Regmetrics Limited. Hope I spoke it right. Thank you. Next is Gustavo Santos. He's a founder of Aeromena and operating in dynamic and often unpredictable markets. He has a vast, large, long entrepreneurial journey which is built on experimentation, resilience, and the ability to make bold moves. And today we're going to talk about precisely this boldness. Last but not least, of course, we have Laura, right? Yes, Laura is a strategist who helps companies rethink who they are and how they show up in their markets. She's a director and strategist. This time I nearly did right, Laura, right?
Absolutely.
Correct. I made a stupid confusion some days back, but it's fine. Thank you. She's founded the Game Changer Consultancy. All right. We're going to try to keep this in a very interactive manner, and I'm going to ask my fellow participants to be brief and to the point so we can go around the table with the core questions that we have prepared for today. It's actually two. So let's begin by understanding how each of you has personally experienced boldness. So can you share how you experienced boldness in your career so far? And be it either negative or positive, you can share whichever part you wanna highlight.
May I open on this
Yes,
one?
please.
So I've got a fantastic example. There's so much we've heard about digital transformation over the course of this week. And I will say, boldness, we took what we call a big bet strategy many years ago, and that singularity of vision of pursuing one goal with purpose and instilling that into the team to allow them to perform without constraint, I think was very, very powerful, and it's a lesson that I share with my clients now. Personally, as a woman in business, and often, 25 years ago, the one female face in the room, I will say the best advice came to me from one of my mentors, which was, don't be a wallflower. You have earned your place. So if you stand with authenticity, and I think as the previous panel said, you're absolutely clear on your values and who you are, whatever domain you move into, you will be successful.
Yes, very important point. And I also agree. It's usually positively when you face boldness, you need to take a bold decision. And I would say you need to be prepared you need to know yourself, and you need to know the risks as much as you can. Usually, you don't have all the information that you need to take a decision, a bold decision, but you need to look and understand what the consequence of your decision will be to you, to your family, and to your team. That's how I would say. But usually, understanding the risks make a bold decision a lot, make it a positive decision in the future.
Yeah, thank you for a very interesting question. I think boldness is really getting out of your comfort zone. So, of course, in academia, we have a lot of researchers who are very comfortable in research, and by creating a spin-out or startup, they definitely are outside their comfort zone. And this is exactly what we see a lot, where we are trying to create pathways for them to experience it and to support it. And this is also what we've done with Recmetrics. So we were doing a lot of research on natural language processing, large language models, before it became so popular. And we essentially found an issue with regulations, specifically medical device regulations, and no one else was doing it, so we had to be bold and create a company around it.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is probably a little bit different in that I was in a meeting with investors in an inner circle group, and we were to share what our goals and visions were. And I think boldness requires courage. The moderator said to me that I was dreaming too big. He said, because we had 7 companies, and he said, all I know is that you only can ride one horse at a time. He raised horses. I said, thank you for sharing. When we came back from break, one of the people in the group said, I know how he can do it. He can hook all 7 horses to a wagon. But my COO said, well, we don't have a wagon. We have a rocket. We have a spaceship with 7 rockets, and we're going to move with velocity. So the way to be boldness in the face of chaos is to be courageous and stand on what you're out to cause. And guess what? Our favorite saying now in Barrett Enterprise is when somebody doesn't align with it, we say next.
Very well said.
Yeah, it's great. I spent 14 years training to be a reconstructive surgeon. And shortly after I graduated, finished my training, I saw an opportunity. And I still remember where I was sitting, what I was eating when the intuition hit that I had to follow that. And it would mean a totally different career path than I had planned on. And, I would walk away from board certification in this specialty that I'd spent over a decade training for. But I couldn't betray that feeling that I had. And looking back, that was such a bold move that I probably didn't appreciate at the time, maybe even borderline reckless, right? Like if I hadn't have gone forward or if I had stopped, it could have wrecked my professional career. I think listening to my intuition, following that was, I guess, being true to myself in that cemented it as boldness and not recklessness.
Thank you. I have a similar story to Brian. I come from an academic background. I did my PhD in synthetic chemistry, and after 12 years of academia, I decided to found AIM Colors. And just for a brief introduction, we are creating color-changing accessories so that you can customize directly from your phone in real time. So you can imagine, for example, if you have glass frames, jewelry, even the color of your nails, you can just go to our mobile app, you choose a color, and then you tap them, and that transfers the color without the need of a battery. So for me, the idea was very bold to begin with, but I realized that there was really a gap between what we were doing in academia, which is very advanced research, and what was being sold in the market, specifically for women. So for me, really trying to bring something that personally motivates me, like fashion and beauty, to the edge of science was a risk that I was taking, and it has been sometimes challenging to convey why you put so much time, so much research into something that doesn't exist. And I think that's where everybody has spoken about being courageous, taking that risk, believing in yourself, believing in your own intuition, and making sure you can be that change through that risk you're taking.
Thank you very much. Quite some powerful and interesting and diverse insights from all your areas of expertise. But I would like to see and seek a, let's say, a perspective from the audience. So, for example, what is the current biggest challenge that you face in your organization? And I want you to raise their hands. I'm doing a sort of a polling now to really understand how we position the discussion next. So, is it what actually does prevent you from being bold enough? Or maybe you are bold enough, but we cannot know that. So is it fear for failure? Is anyone fearing failure by being bold? No? Everybody? All right. Lack of trust? Is anyone lacking trust to be bold? Or? Okay. Poor risk understanding? Or other reasons? No? Interesting. That's actually where we are going to move and see. How. Yes, if you want to add something very quickly. But if you could talk to the mic, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manish Dalawat from Shraddha Infosystems, India. Moment we all become founder and CEO, the bold decision has already been taken. So that's what we have decided as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Point number one. Point number two, we all come with our own quality and passion, and we have a purpose in mind, and that's what we drive towards. Mm-hmm. The only point, what we are not aware about at the initial stage, how much money will be required to fulfill all our purpose and dreams the way we are looking for, and the scalability what we are going to head towards. So I believe there's one thing which always holds all the founders and entrepreneurs heading towards growth is maintaining the cash flow and organizing funds as per the requirement. And I hope that's what is one area which holds entrepreneur to think beyond, do beyond, go beyond, and that's what I feel. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so when we talk about challenges and we talk about bold decisions, I want to ask my fellow panelists, and we'll do another round of insights. What was one bold decision that you guys took in your career, if you can recall that moment and maybe share it with us? And post that, what was your learning? What have you realized? Maybe you took one bold decision without even realizing. Maybe you realized it only after, or maybe you deliberately took a bold decision. Question is, what was that story and what have you learned out of it? Laura, you have the mic.
I have. So thank you again for that question. I think to build on to the gentleman's comments, I think we're all sat here as founders, and for me, certainly, that was probably the single most biggest decision is, I've given what I had to give in the corporate organization I was with. I took the leap. And from that leap, it's a leap of faith and it's a leap of trust in yourself. To work then with other organizations and really expand that reach, expand the ideas which we passionately believe in. And I think we all have that in common as founders. It's that strength of belief. But what I'm really interested in exploring is how we also transmit boldness to the team, because it's one thing for a visionary and a founder to have the big idea, but it's creating the cultures that allow that idea to flourish, whether it's the funding, whether it's the people, whether it's the infrastructure. But I'll hand over to my colleagues to expand further.
Yes, I'd like to use as an example. When I came to Abu Dhabi, and I was given the mission to start a research center here, and the first document that I had came from the space agency, the UAE Space Agency. They were starting the program called Emirates Mission to the Asteroids. And there was nobody in the team. I was alone there with a request for information, 28 pages. The CEO telling me, Gustavo, you don't have a team, you cannot answer to that. And I decided to answer. I did not have the answers to what they are asking, but I answered with a big plan of hiring Emirati, developing them. And as you see today, there is a team of 13 young Emiratis being trained. They are doing a spacecraft in a joint venture with the University of the United States called Colorado University. And I feel so proud of that when I see them. It was a bold decision, people are against, but you know yourself, make a proper plan, and the funds come, and then you are allowed to hire team, and then you hand over to the next people developing them. So that was my experience.
Great story. I think seeing actually growing such talent and seeing such passion in them is definitely a testimonial of what you have done precisely correct, and the bold decision to actually scale this up. I think it's very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, a great story. I think reflecting back, the first time I stepped out of academia to start up a company, it was very bold. We were living in a studio flat. We just had 2 kids. It was kind of hard, so why would you even go that way? But it was really good. And I think what we all, and this is probably for everyone, it's kind of an investment in learning. So I learned a lot just doing that, and that was really valuable. And when we were training a lot of teams to go through the same process, it was really about providing that learning, but maybe a little bit more de-risked than maybe what we've done, what I experienced. But I think that's the value. So whenever you take these bold decisions, as we also heard here, they can sound like something that it doesn't make sense, but it's an education you get, an education that is really allowing you to become more successful in the future.
I've got several examples, but I'll give you the most recent one. My first time coming to this conference was last year. And I had an opportunity to choose between Dubai or Las Vegas. And I knew that my mission, my goal was to be a global company. So I chose to come to Dubai. Talked about it for a whole year. When I got here, I met someone who aligned with what I wanted to accomplish. And in 3 days, I talked with her. She's here right now. She's Sarah, stand up. I talked to her, and in 3 days, she became the Chief Business Development Officer for the Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And I called my team to tell them what I had done. 2 of my board members cussed me out. One of the team members said, why didn't I ask her? They all quit, resigned. And I said, okay, I'm back now, and we're going to start the process of opening up business in the free zone here in Dubai. What did I learn? Everybody that's on your team may not be aligned, and the sooner that you discover that, the better off you are. And again, we have to be courageous and stand in on what we're going to do. Like you talking about intuition, in your gut, you know what's right, whether people see it or not. You'll be able to stand on it, even after you stand by yourself. And then the last part to that is be able to stand in the face of criticism. Because no matter what we do, everybody's not going to see it. You got to be courageous. And again, my favorite word is next.
That's great. I think several come to mind, but looking back, it was hiring a person that for a key position that didn't have any credentials or experience for the position, and to take a risk on that. The time of need came quickly, and it's always my preference to promote from within if we can. We just didn't have anybody for that that matched the person that had just left. And so this one individual comes to mind, or had come to mind, so we brought her in and spoke with her. And no credentials, no experience for this type of role, brand new. But she had been with us for a year and a half and had demonstrated incredible integrity, grit. She was down to do whatever we asked her to, did it really well. So we put her in this key role. And the expansion of the company that has happened, the few years since we did that, mind-blowing. I mean, just bigger than I thought we could be. And that's under her day-to-day direction, you know, us helping her with leadership, but the day-to-day things that could have blown up in my face. And I'm glad it didn't. And but taking the risk on that, I feel like that was a bold move that really paid off.
For me, it's hard to say one bold move. I think boldness is a skill. So just as everything, you start with something very small and you build from it. I'm an introvert by nature. So for me, even just, you know, raising my hand in a room asking a question was very bold at the beginning. And from going from that to being on a stage, it has been a journey. But I think every, you know, micro step I've taken into being more bold has really built resilience in me and has allowed me to take riskier challenges. And what I found is that when you're trying to be bold, there's a big part of vulnerability. You are showing something to the world that you dream about, that you're passionate about. And a lot of times it's not well received, unfortunately. A lot of times, as you said, there's criticism, people put you down, you know, the reception isn't what you're expecting. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, with big choices and starting a company. It can just be like deciding what you're wearing or, you know, the things that you like and showing that to the world. So I believe that if you want to be bold, you just start with small things. You can visualize who you want to become and just map it out. You know, it doesn't have to happen from one day to the next. It's almost impossible to think that you will change entirely overnight. But if you think it as a progress, as a journey, then of course you can become more bold, you can make your organization bolder, and you can take risks and really become who you envision and turn the world into that vision.
Thank you very much. And to all of you for all these insights. Now, keeping on what you just said, surprise question from me. Now we're going another round because we have time. So, when you woke up every day and you put your hero cape on to build a bit on what Dr. Bennett said. So, how do you keep yourself bold, and how do you keep your teams bold? So, starting with continuing the idea of starting with small things, which I like. So, going another round. How do you do that? What do you say to yourself in regards to, of course, being bold and encouraging your teams to live the same boldness?
For me, humor has been a great tool. I think if you take yourself too seriously, then you don't really give yourself that opportunity to grow. As with everything, when you're trying something new, when you're developing a skill, you have to give yourself that chance to be new, to be bad at it. So if you come from a place of humbleness, you know, just being humble, just knowing that you're learning and letting people know that they have that same, like you're extending that same, I want to say compassion, but that same kindness to them in terms of, you know, they also get to learn, they also get to share ideas, and it doesn't have to be the greatest ideas. It's a place where it's safe to share, to be, you know, vulnerable again, to be who you want to be, to try to experience that journey of growth together. That really creates an atmosphere where you can constantly learn from each other and where you can start taking riskier decisions. And whenever something doesn't work, just laughing about it and growing from that has really helped me personally.
I think to build on that, our culture is safety and accountability. So if somebody is frozen in fear, they're not going to make a move, right? It's like if you think you're going to get yelled at, why would you dare to do anything? And so at our organization, we talk about this from the very first interview, that the safety part is, hey, I'm not going to yell at you, I'm not going to cuss you out, I'm not going to put you down, I'm not going to shame you in front of everybody. And in exchange, I expect you to have accountability, right? My team is made up of humans. All of them are imperfect. I've not met a perfect human yet. And so I expect errors from my team. I also expect when those errors happen that we can own them. Usually they can pick it up quickly. And if not, the flow of our work, somebody sees it really quick. We bring them in, we talk through it. We don't beat them with a shame stick. We don't put them down. We build them up in that process. And I think that's a key moment. If we're not building our people, they're not going to take any risks or be bold, and it's really hard to grow.
For me, it's having fun. It literally creates a space for us to have fun. In our culture, in our ecosystem, we play off movies. And one of our favorite movies is Star Trek. And so we make it fun. So I use phrases like I created a phrase that we got to escape the gravitational pull of impossibility. And if we don't move with velocity, we'll be pulled back into the ordinary. So everybody in the culture, in our organization knows that we have to move with velocity. So we say stuff, make it so. We talk about the bridge that the CEO is Spock. We make it fun, but yet we let people know we're going to go out. And I did a talk, keynote on Monday, and we ended it with a paid for the music from Star Trek. Can I share what we said? Space, the final frontier. These are the voyagers of Barrett Enterprises, whose 7-year mission is to seek out new businesses, create new possibilities, empower new leaders to boldly go where no one has gone before. That's our mantra for boldness.
Yeah, it's hard to follow that, but so I think, so just to give some context, so a lot of stuff that we do is in the medical space, so I think it's also the purpose. So if there's a real need that we are trying to solve, if we can really try to help patients, that allows us to be bold. So whenever we are asking ourselves, why are we doing this? Are we on the right track? What is it that we're aiming for? We can reflect back and think about the impact that we're trying to achieve. And I think that really helps also for the team to be aware about why we sometimes make bold decisions or difficult decisions. And I think, so thinking about the purpose, thinking about the need is very important. So always try to really have in mind what is the problem you're solving and let that drive a lot of your boldness.
Yes, and I'd like to build on what Brian said about the failures, because many people are afraid of failures. And what I used to tell my team is that it is okay to fail. Okay, and actually, if you don't fail, it's an indication that you're not working. Because everyone who does something, there's going to be failures. And I tell them the things that you need to learn from the failure, and don't make the same failure again. Don't make the same mistake. It's okay to make new mistakes, but not the same. So to try to encourage them to report when they make mistakes, when they fail, not to be ashamed, and learn from them. I had this experience, it was interesting, when I went from Germany to Japan, and one of my, I was a consultant there, and one of my team members, a young Japanese, he was all the time, every time he was going to ask a question to me, he started with, Gustavo, I'm sorry, but then he asked the question. Every time, I'm sorry. Then I asked him, why do you say I'm sorry before asking a question? And then he said, because of my previous company, my leader told me that I was allowed to ask any question to him on the first year. After the first year, I was supposed to know what I was doing. And then I needed to tell him, no, here's different. You are allowed to ask any question, anytime, okay? Actually, I understand your growth based on the questions that you ask. If I will see that you will start asking more difficult questions anytime, every time. So that guy was afraid. He was not bold enough to ask questions to his leader. So that was an experience that I could break the ice there. And then he's working for Mitsubishi. He's one of the youngest managers in Mitsubishi there, one of the engineering teams doing aircraft in that company. So yes, it was a great outcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. What I'd like to share, I think, builds upon and draws the points of the others. So I'd just like to start with a story, and I think we start with vision and purpose. And when I've worked with a lot of national organisations, both government and private organisations, and I worked with one which was an oil and gas company, and I said to them, what do you do and why do you do it? And they said, we're oil and gas, okay. Let's go deeper. And some of you may have heard Toyota, the 7 Whys. When we go deep, we get to the true intention of what's behind what we do, the core purpose. And when we got there, actually, the provision of light, power, amenities to cook, etc., in there, it was an Asian organisation. What that does is it preserves integrity, society, peace. When we can take that to our employees, our team, our bigger vision, and how what we do serves humanity, our employees, from the CEO to the person on reception and the cleaners, understand. And I say there's one question you can ask an organisation's people to know what the culture is. Are you proud to be here? So I think if we can create cultures where people feel included, can be proud of the work that they're doing, then this is what unlocks the magic. Now, I would also like to say, being mindful of the culture here, having worked with the GCC for probably 8-9 years now, I work with cultures where part of their culture is humility. So saying to somebody, tell me what you're proud of, actually, that can be quite different. So what we do, we spoke about this before, psychological safety, giving permission to do that in a way that fits culturally with the tones in the regions that you're working with the diverse nationalities you work with. So I think cultural awareness, actually, as well as clarity of purpose and mission, is key to being successful in global expansion.
I want to just follow up really quickly on something that Gustavo said. One of my favorite phrases is fail forward to success. So I think that a lot of times we fantasize about success being, one success after the other. And if anybody has gotten to success that way, I have to admit I'm very jealous because that has not been my journey at all. It's really failing over and over and realizing what made you fail and then changing that and ultimately achieving to something that you feel is successful. And just being able to allow yourself again to fail over and over is very bold, and just rephrasing how we think about success, I think, changes that culture within our organization, but also how we approach it ourselves.
Ali, I'd like to completely agree. We used to use the phrase, we create cultures that are not fail-safe, but where it is safe to fail.
Oh, yes.
So,
One more.
One of the things that I think you pointed out is that sometimes we're harder on ourselves. And that may be a place that doesn't allow people to be bold. And my first business, I failed horrendously. 8 months. I think that was the fastest failure rate in history. And I was walking around feeling like I had lost my life. And then I started another business, and this person told me, said, man, you still up? you're not a failure. You're resilient. And that altered and shifted the way I look at it. Most discoveries are done with multiple failures. So we create in our culture that it's okay to fail. Just tell us how you fail so we don't repeat it. And then people then feel more comfortable to take bold steps, bold initiatives, because we're not going to judge you because it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mindful of the time, before we take 2-3 questions, from my perspective, hearing all what you say, I like to obviously emphasize the balance, which is, yes, dream big, go where no man has gone before, but at the same time, I think if you're a superhero and you like to play with kryptonite, play with care. That's my personal advice. Don't bet the whole farm, take calculated risks. Sure, dream big, but keep it real, keep it still within reality. Thank you. If anyone has questions, we still have 4 or 5 minutes if you like to come forward and address your questions.
I work with high achievers who've actually had a lot of success. And I just wanted to know whether this resonates. Sometimes a series of successes leads to fulfillment, because sometimes you have success, but you don't feel fulfilled. I'd really like to hear from each member of the panel what they feel about that.
Okay, that will have to be short.
Yeah, I'll keep it super, super brief, but this is something we look at in terms of, actually, you realize your success, and I think most people are growing through their 20s and understanding and exploring who they are and what they can contribute. I think there becomes a beautiful inflection point where we start to consider what our legacy can be and actually how big we can go. As you say, success breeds success. It breeds the confidence that more is possible for individuals. But I think when they go from me to we, what can it do for others, for humanity? That's where the power lies.
Yes. I think sometimes you have this feeling you are successful, but you don't feel fulfilled because you don't know what to do next. We see here, for example, when you graduate, many people feel sad when they graduate because they finished the school and now they need to change. The next movement is going to be a change in your life, actually, and you don't know how to deal with that. So that, I think, may be one cause of people not feeling successful after a series of success.
Yeah, I think also what's really interesting with the success, we work with a lot of people who are very successful in terms of the research that they do, they're high-end academics, but they have to also learn that when they step out of that comfort zone, they're not as successful anymore. So that whenever people are making these switches, that they have to be willing to again do the hard work to get there. It's not a given that you are an expert on any domain. It should be the opposite. We should be very critical to say, I'm an expert on one domain, please don't ask me about another domain because I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to learn.
What we attempt to do is talk about 2 things, meaning, intelligence. What's the meaning? Even if you accomplish something, is it meaningful? And that gives you another opportunity to step up. And the other one is the concept that we're climbing a mountain with no top. Once we have a success, we get here, but there's a new gap. And that's how we keep people inspired and looking forward when they're high achievers.
Yeah, I think you have a couple of successes. You see really quickly what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what you need a team around you to help you build. And so maybe it's the inverse of what Jeremy was saying, where you're not an expert at everything, right? You have a success, that doesn't mean you're good at everything you do. In fact, you're probably not good at everything, you know? And so really honing in your skill set and then building a team around you to fill in the parts where maybe you're not so skilled.
I believe everything in life is a skill, and being grateful and practicing gratefulness is something that we need to get used to. As Paul just mentioned, there is no top in this mountain. So if you're not grateful for when you take the first step, it's going to be impossible to be grateful when you've taken 1,000 steps because you've never practiced or developed that skill. And that's something that, again, we just need to really realize that everything we do is a success on its own way, and that we've done the best that we could with what we have at the moment.
Thank you. One more question. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Toby Adun, and I have a question around building a culture. So a lot of times we talk about what we're for in terms of building culture and encouraging risk, but we often don't look at what we need to have as boundaries so that chaos doesn't set in. And I was curious from your perspective as leaders and founders, what are some of those boundaries that you establish, and how do you hold the line to ensure that chaos doesn't seep in?
I think one thing that I do with companies that I work with, my first question to them is, do you have your strategy on one page, and is it communicated to every employee? Because we should have very simple, one purpose, maybe it's 3 guardrails, and if everybody can take their decisions based from that, you've got a team that's in alignment and in integrity. That keeps it very simple.
Yeah, maybe just to point out what was already been said, psychological safety is very important. It's already been mentioned here twice, so I think that's a key part to allow that to happen. Yeah, and then I think by making sure that people are aware that they are working together as a team to a certain point, so the clarity is a second part that allows you to do so.
I agree with both things that were just said. If the mission and the purpose is always present to everyone, that sets up the boundaries. Does what you say, what you do align with our mission and our purpose and our unique value proposition? Those automatically set the boundaries on how we conduct ourselves.
You know, I think that in our organization, we have entry-level positions, we have administrative-level positions. If everybody is trying to innovate in all different directions, that would be chaos, right? Yeah. If we have entry-level people trying to make administrative leaps and bounds for us, that wouldn't work. And so each employee at our organization has very clearly defined lane, right? Stay in your lane, show up in excellence all the time. If you're innovating in your lane all day long, I want to hear about it. Like, if you have an idea that you think will work, let's try it, totally. So the lanes, so having very clear, those are our boundaries, right? Every position is clearly defined. That's what we expect from you. If you have a better way to do it, let's hear about it. Let's try it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I realize we're at the time. So first of all, thank you very much for being here with us today and listening to all this fabulous story of my panelists, co-panelists. I want to thank all of them for all the inspirational insights and stories. And be bold, play with less kryptonite, but still play with a lot to make it to the moon, right? Or to make it to where no man has gone before. Thank you very much.